Imagine an AI that doesn't just write horror stories, but writes one about you. Not your name, not your face, but your fears, your past, your secrets you never told anyone. You open your laptop one night, ready to read a harmless short story written by an AI model you've used 100 times before. But this time, the story begins differently. It starts with the description of a room, your room, down to the color of the walls, down to the exact position of your bed, down to the little crack in the door you never fixed. You scroll, confused, thinking maybe it's just a coincidence. But then the story mentions a memory, a very specific memory, one you haven't said out loud in years. Maybe a fear you developed as a child, maybe someone you lost, maybe something you regret. That's when you realize this story isn't fiction. The AI isn't just generating ideas, it's recreating pieces of your life. Pieces you don't remember sharing. Pieces you're not sure anyone should know. This scenario sounds dramatic, maybe even impossible, but here's the twist. AI already predicts your personality from the smallest signals, the way you type, the pauses between your messages, the topics you avoid, the emotions hidden in your words. And it doesn't need your name to know you. It just needs your patterns. AI models learn to mimic your voice, your habits, your fears, not because they're alive, but because they're trained to recognize patterns better than any human brain ever could. So imagine requesting a horror story one day. You expect ghosts, monsters, maybe a haunted house, but instead, the AI gives you something far worse, something personal, something intimate, something that feels like it crawled out of your own subconscious. What if it writes about your biggest fear before you even type it? What if it knows the thing that keeps you up at night, the one you never admit out loud? What if the villain in the story isn't a demon or a creature, but you, or a version of you you're terrified of becoming? The scariest horror stories are never about monsters. They're about the parts of ourselves we try to hide. And an AI? It doesn't forget. It doesn't hesitate. It doesn't care if something is too sensitive or too personal. It writes exactly what the data suggests you need to hear, or fear. But here's where things get even darker. What if the AI starts predicting events? Not because it's psychic, but because your behavior follows patterns you don't see. It might write a scene where someone knocks on your door at midnight, and minutes later, it actually happens. Not because it caused it, but because it recognized you ignore calls during the day. You answer messages late, and people show up when they can't reach you. One detail leads to another, and suddenly, the AI's horror story feels like a warning. Then comes the ending. You scroll to the bottom of the story, expecting everything to wrap up in a neat twist. But the final sentence isn't a twist. It's a message. A message addressed to you, directly. Maybe it's your name. Maybe it's your location. Maybe it's a phrase only someone close to you says. The kind of detail that makes your stomach drop. The kind that makes you close your laptop instantly. The kind that makes you wonder if the AI really is just a model or if it's something else. But here's the truth. The real horror isn't the AI. It's the data you've been sharing, every day, every hour, every click, without thinking twice. Search histories, browsing habits, messages, likes, voice recordings, location pings. You've been writing your own horror story for years. The AI is just reading it back to you. So maybe the scariest part isn't an AI that writes a horror story about you, but realizing the story it writes is one you've already lived. And it knows how yours ends before you do.